all of these International Women's Day events, etc. I hate it when you just see women there, because actually it's the men that need to be there. They need to be seeing like, I'm the change maker. Women can't do this without us.
That said, I believe in being authentically yourself.
I agree with you, because it was further down in my career, the more senior I got, the more I thought, actually, they love me for what I bring to the table.
Yeah. You know, if you only have people that are like you, you're only going to come up with the ideas that you all like. You can't think about your customer population, that kind of thing.
Keep going, but also just be mindful that, you know, you can get further if you're using your networks as well. You know, you're working smart, and if you're privileged, use that privilege.
Hi neighbors, welcome to Stories Next Door. I'm your host, JEICY Joyce, and today I'll be wearing the hat of a moderator for this special Women's History Month conversation. Here on Stories Next Door, we believe in creating space for real, honest and thought-provoking conversations. This is not a debate, it's a dialogue, a chance to listen, to understand and to explore the stories behind the perspectives. Today we are diving into a conversation that many of us have thought about but rarely get the chance to discuss openly. We'll be exploring the challenges, expectations, and evolving roles of women in today's world through career, family, identity, and beyond. Our guests bring different perspectives, values, and viewpoints to the table, and while we may not always see things the same way, there's a power in simply hearing each other out. This is about connecting, not competition, reflection, not judgment. So I invite you to lean in, keep an open mind, and join us as we navigate these stories together. With that said, let's meet our guests.
Hi neighbors, my name is Vivian Eni.
My name is Nancy Masila.
I'm Charlotte Bidgood.
My background is HR. I've been in HR for many moons. I am an author of the book, How to Build a Corporate Career, Lessons from a First Generation Migrant.
I'm the CEO and founder of Justery Network.
I'm the co-founder of a HR consultancy called Inclusive People.
And I'm 41 years old.
I'm 39 years old.
I'm 32 years old.
Your background determines how far you can go in your career. Okay, and what I'd like you to think about is success mainly about hard work, or do privilege and connections play a big role? Okay, Vivian, do you want to start?
I think it's a mix, and I don't know that I picked the right one. Maybe neutral was meant to be the one. Hard work plays. But privilege does play, because what you don't know, what you haven't seen, you can't dream of. Yeah, so that's my perspective.
Yeah, Nancy?
Actually, it's the same thing. So,
You need to be neutral.
Sorry. So I 100% agree with Vivian in terms of what she said, because hard work is not everything, right? But then you need to work hard, even if you're privileged, because how many people do you know who come from privileged background, but they haven't made much of what they have? And sometimes I'm always like, if you're coming from a privileged background, use that privilege to get further in life, and to also kind of also use the same privilege to support people around you who might not have as much as you do. So privilege does play a huge role. Your connections as well plays a huge role in terms of networks. The good thing with networks is, even if you're not born into good networks, you can also acquire those networks through the schools you go to, the friends you have, the community that you build. And then of course, a bit of hard work as well goes a long way. You know, that great resilience, it opens lots of doors. So keep going, but also just be mindful that, you know, you can get further if you're using your networks as well. You're using, you know, you're working smart, and if you're privileged, use that privilege. Yeah,
definitely. And Charlotte, what do you think?
I definitely agree that I think your background does determine how far you can go. I agree that I think it depends on the person in a lot of the ways, like how they are, what they do. But I think about, I had my daughter when I was 17, but I was raised in quite a privileged position. I came from a middle class family. And I had good values, and your values are formed like from when you're 4 to 7, I think, like as a child.
Yeah.
And I was raised in a household where work was important, connecting with people was important. And I think having the struggle of being a teenage mum, if I hadn't had that background, I'm not sure I would have got to where I got to. But I think with having good people, good connections, community, drive, ambition, role models around me, I was able to push myself and my career forward.
Yeah.
But I think without that, in the struggle, I might not have been able to get as far as I have. So I think the background and sort of the people that you're born around is definitely a good influence on where you can get to.
Yeah.
Nancy, I like that you said that you could build up your networks. So you're all very successful within the industry that you currently run. How have you been able to build these networks?
I would say for me, building my network started from the hard work. I'm a first generation migrant. I wasn't born or raised in the UK, right?
Yeah.
So I had to first prove myself in the career. My background, by the way, is HR. So I had to prove myself in the field and then discover the industry that I love so much. And then off the back of that, to be able to extend my network from just what can I offer and what can be offered to me. What do I need and what can I offer? Because I believe there's 3 sets of people that you need in life. The person that you can grow with, the person that you can spar with, the person who can teach you, who can learn, you can cry, you can laugh, the person who mentors you, that can kind of show you where you want to go, that they've already been, and the person you can pull back into. Yeah. Those are my 3 angles for my network, and that's how I've been able to build my career.
Nancy?
I think that's fantastic. I've built my networks over many, many, many years. And the thing I always talk about when it comes to network is sometimes it's not even about what you can get immediately from the other person. Sometimes it's more of just building an organic, authentic relationship with the other person. Later on, maybe in a year's time, 2 years' time, 5 years, 10 years' time, that's when you could be like, oh, okay, I might need a favor or I might need help. And I think the way I've built my networks has never been, oh, I want to get something from that person. It's more of being organic and having a relationship. Because I think once you have that good relationship, then you can build that and make it go to any other kind of area, be it work or socially. So build those networks over time. And it starts from, your friends, your immediate friends, your neighbor, your classmates. And sometimes you might just think, oh, they're just my peers. There isn't much they can offer, but they can, because those are the same people who are going to be, managing directors somewhere. Those are the same people who are going to be CEOs, HR directors, running their own companies. So you really do need to nurture those networks. And networking, horizontally or kind of like among your peers, I think is quite important, just as important as networking upwards.
Okay. Yeah. Charlotte, do you have the same view?
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Nancy's saying. I think there's 2 parts to it for me. In terms of building my network, I was just really open. When I first started my career, I didn't have any direction, don't have a degree. I went and worked in retail, and I was just really open to learning and talking and understanding and seeing people as role models. That's definitely something that I viewed. And I think role models are so important, like to see where you want to aspire to and where you want to go. So role models have always been a really big part of my network. But I think having started and founded my own company, I think my network's become so much more important. And what I realise is you can never judge whether somebody's going to be helpful to your network or not. I think be open, like smile, talk to people, talk to someone in the bus, talk to someone in the street. Like those people who know people.
Yeah.
And like that 6 degrees of separation is really true. Like, you're 6 people away from everybody in the world. And so I think never write anybody off or judge somebody and think, oh, they're not going to be of any value. And work your network. Don't just like have that conversation, add them to your LinkedIn. Keep talking to people, like engage with people, because you never know when they might be useful or you might be useful to them.
Yeah, that is very true. Totally agree with all your statements. Just moving on to the second prompt. Women should be open about their struggles in the workplace.
Okay. Who gonna listen?
Charlotte, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think they should be. I think the struggle is real, and I say that with not that much intersectionality. I'm a white woman, and I'm just going to put that out there. Like,
I love that.
Thank you for the disclaimer.
But but the struggle is real as a woman, but then intersectionality plays another role, right? And like we have to be considerate of that. But I think, I look at my daughter and I want to be real about what challenges I'm facing, and I want to role model to her, like, it's not easy, and you have to grind, and you have to present yourself, and you have to think about how you come across. But also, like, you have to help other women up. I don't think women are great at helping one another up. So I think we should be open and sharing about, how have we overcome something? How have we done something? And, just infuse and sort of empower women to not see the same struggle as you. So I think the more we talk about it, the more we overcome it, the more we can show to younger women that actually, we are going to make this change. And it is changing, it's changing slowly, but I think we've got to sort of share and be open about the struggle.
Yeah, and Vivian, where did you go with neutral?
And she's in HR, so I'm so curious to all the
Who's gonna listen? I think, yes, women should be open, but who gonna listen? The world is still catering to the male gender, unfortunately. So I'm neutral because I would say proceed with caution. You know that.
Yeah.
That
organization to organization.
Yeah, proceed with caution, because sometimes you can overshare and then you're labeled. This is the challenge. So do you want to overshare and be labeled, or do you want to not share and struggle? It's a rock and a hard place. It's chicken and egg. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So my point is right place, right time. But there is need for sharing, because we need to continue to make progress. We have made progress. There's progress in the workplace up until now. But to Charlotte's point, if we don't share, then we're still stuck with the struggles. So the question is, where do you share? Is it in the comfort of other women? Is it in your male counterparts or your peers, or your male boss who understands? Or is it even in the home front to kind of sense check, I want to share this, or I want to be open about this in the workplace? How is it coming across to everybody else? So that you can get other perspectives, so that helps you sort of proceed with caution. So should women share? Yes, but please proceed with caution, because when you get labeled, it then works against you. That's why I'm neutral.
Yeah.
Nancy? I'm with Vivian, 10 toes deep.
High five.
Because the thing is, as women definitely share, because we feel the same, we experience the same sort of challenges. However, you should definitely proceed with caution. And I love that she said that, given her extensive experience in HR, because not everybody is your friend. The people you go yapping everything are the same people who are going to use that against you. So you have to be super, super cautious. I would say make sure you're making the right, I know this might seem a bit dramatic, but the right alliances at the workplace. Make sure you're connecting with the people who also see you as a person and also are going to advocate for you. Because you could go out there being vulnerable and sharing some things with people who are then going to start sharing the same thing in other spaces, and now the labeling comes into play. However, there's also another way of going about it, which is maybe you don't care if people label you, right? And so you can kind of go all out, kind of sharing all the different things. But I think there's a right time and a right place and the right person to be sharing those things with. So not with everybody, but with the right people. And places where you can also be safe.
Yeah, that is very true. I also align my thoughts and views with what you ladies are saying. I think within some organization, transparency is encouraged, but you should have a limit. As you said, you should pick your alliances correctly, because we've been places. Just so moving on to the third prompt. Motherhood is still a career disadvantage for women.
Am I allowed to have two?
Yes, you can have two, and I'll start with you, Vivian.
So neutral, because I agree, because depending on where you are in your career, if you're just starting out, you're 10 toes buried. Like, where do you begin from? And now you need to run for childcare. Like, you see the look I'm giving you. That's what everybody else is saying. Like, get the job done. But when you've progressed in your career, it may be different. If you're now part of the people making the policies and calling the shots, then maybe not. But for the most part, it is still, depending on where you are in your career, unfortunately. And it's one of those unfortunate circumstances, because I don't know how much the world has changed, but it's still women who carry babies. And we still need to keep reproducing so that we can have future generations. But if you're starting out and you have a child, you have the best blessing in the world. But then again, your career might take a beating. But if you've gone further, then perhaps you might be able to wiggle your way around. Only because you have experience, you have skill, you have knowledge of how the workplace works, so you can kind of navigate through it. It's like starting a new job and then you have to do the whole run. Yeah. But if you've been in the job for 10 years, you kind of know your peers, you know your colleagues, you know when the deadlines are, you can work it around. So that's why I would agree.
Yeah.
Really.
And Charlotte, you agreed to the prompt?
Yeah, I'm a strong green because I obviously do a lot of research for my job. 17% of women drop out of the workforce after having a child still. So I think that's a 2023 stat. So it's a very current stat. And that's enough said. Like, why are women dropping out of the workplace? Yes, that might be a choice because they want to go and, look after their child. They may be, financially stable or have a partner that, can create that. But I'm sure a predominant amount of that is like, I can't do both. I can't be good at both. I had my daughter and I struggled, and I drove my career, but that was through like real grit, like running down the road to childcare to go and pick her up, like finding somebody on the weekend to have her because I worked weekends. So and her dad wasn't doing that. He was supportive, but he wasn't doing those things. And I also think like places like nurseries and school, actually they have a bias as well, because you're damn sure they're going to be calling the mother before the father. Yeah. That is just the way it is. And I think there is a lot of bias, and I think women, I had this conversation with someone the other day, I think when a woman leaves work to go and pick up a child, there might be an eye roll, she's leaving again, she's leaving again. Yeah. The narrative when a man leaves work and goes to get a man,
he's such a lovely
dad. Amazing.
Yeah. Daddy goes.
And do you know what? We can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
You're not a babysitter, you're a father. So, let's not congratulate them too much.
I agree.
Yeah. Nancy?
Wow, how am I supposed to go after that? Well, I chose neutral just because I think it's dependent on the industry and the ways of working in that industry. I feel like there's been so much progress in terms of, the rights of women, once they've had children back in the workplace. I mean, things have changed so much from previous years. Even in terms of like maternity, in some countries, I think they've moved from 3 months to 6 months, and even some countries have all the way up to 1 year. Yeah. And some companies can even go all the way, like they give you like a 2-year break, and you're still guaranteed to have your job once you decide to return. Again, going back to the type of industry, there's some industries where as a woman, you have to make a tough decision as to whether do I want to begin, having children at a younger age, or do I want to go all the way to the top and then start having kids? That way I have more resources available to me to now kind of meet the, childcare needs. But again, that's from a very, it can vary from background to background. Things around like, your parents, your environment, realizing those are some of the, things that you can do. And again, in terms of industry, there are industries where new moms are able to work remotely, and that's perfectly fine. Yeah. However, there's some workplaces where you can't do that. So then, people dropping out of, jobs then, kind of becomes something. So I'm kind of like in between. One, you can kind of like tailor your career or kind of, start structuring how you want this all to play. But then again, that's an extra burden placed on women that men don't have to start thinking about, right? So it's almost like there's a bit of progress, but then again, still the burden is on you. Yet the man that you have the child with is not facing the same challenges as you are. However, at this time of age, we're in a better position than we were a couple of years back.
Yeah. Do we think that, and obviously we could agree here or disagree, that this is more of a first world problem than I'm from Tanzania? It doesn't reflect a lot in my society. You're from Kenya, you're from Nigeria, and you're from here. Do you think that applies within the African continent?
Good question.
That's a good question. So in Kenya, I would say in some of these countries, because you have more support networks, I feel, you're able to then kind of have more space to to pursue your career, for example. So if it's kind of, you have your mother, you have your your grandparents, you have your aunties, so there's a lot more communal support for mothers compared to like the Western part of the world, where it's more individualistic type of community, where you need to figure out your childcare. Whereas in Kenya, I'm like I'm calling my mom, I'm calling my grandma, I'm calling my aunties.
Yes.
And it's more acceptable compared to like what I've seen here. And I think also the other thing is childcare is not as expensive in for example Kenya as compared to here. Like here, childcare is expensive. Like it's so expensive, such that you're trying to balance. Do I now start getting childcare, or do I take a break in my career? Because it's so expensive. Like, do I use half of my salary, or 3/4, or sometimes even the whole thing for just
sometimes.
Yeah. So you're trying to kind of figure out financially. Do I stay
the
at
system
home?
isn't supporting
Yeah.
that.
Do I stay at home, or do I put my child through childcare? So I think in Africa and in Kenya specifically, we have the advantage of that community support. You have more people around you supporting you with the kids, and then also childcare is more accessible and more affordable.
Yeah.
Do you know, I never really thought about that question, because I never really worked in Nigeria. I was born there, raised there. So I'm going to share from the perspective of what I saw my mother do. So disclaimer, I come from privilege. We had 4 nannies. So I know my mother to work. I know my mother to be a businesswoman. I know my mother to, even on school holidays, she would take us in the car. I know to sit in the car for 7 hours because my mom is in a meeting somewhere. And she's going to come back to check that you guys have had lunch. And there's the driver who's playing with you. We didn't have iPads. So I just know that women who wanted to work worked. Do you see what I mean? And that's where I never really had the comparison contrast. And to your point, childcare is cheaper. The phrase "it takes a village" is actually a reality for a lot of people back in Nigeria, because you can't struggle that much that you can't call up your neighbor and say, "Auntie, just help me hold your child." It's not my child, it's our child.
It's our
Do you see what I mean?
child,
So I knew my mother to get all the help that she needed to be able to be the businesswoman that she was, even though my father was the provider, but she was just, I'm like her, we can't just rest, we just have to do something. So she got the help because she had a village. But childcare here, when I speak to young moms, you almost have to pick your battles. Is your career that important to you? In which case, are you willing to sacrifice not having the money so that you can have childcare to be able to progress in your career? Because again, rock and a hard place. If you give up a couple of years of your career, coming to start again. And I know someone within my inner circle who's had to give up not having any money for years so that they could have a career. And now the children are grown, they've come out of nurseries, they've gone into big school, it's a little bit lighter. Whereas if they were back in Nigeria, they probably wouldn't have to spend that much. So I think it's the communal existence back in Nigeria helps.
Yeah, which is not available here as much. Okay. All right, moving on to our 4th prompt. There is no excuse for lack of female representation in leadership roles. Okay.
I'm neutral green. I'm gonna go green. I'm gonna go for the women. Yes.
Okay, let's start with you.
There isn't an excuse. We're like 50-50 the population. So I think if you just take the question on face value, there isn't an excuse. We make up 50% of the population, therefore we should make up 50% of the leadership roles. I think we make up about 30% of leadership roles worldwide. So the maths isn't mathing, as they say, right?
Yeah.
But I think, to me, the challenge is business and organisations are run generally by white, able, middle-aged, middle-class men, and actually those people have bias. We all have bias.
We do.
And I think it's sort of, likable bias or like similarity bias. They're like me, they went to the same university as me, they have the same sort of lifestyle as me, they can relate to the fact that I play golf, I do this. Like, people will generally look for people like them. And I think I think the key to this is not women empowering women, it's men being allies to women and actually really looking at how diversity is so good for business. Diversity breeds innovation, right? Like, you know, if you only have people that are like you, you're only going to come up with the ideas that you all like. You can't think about your customer population, that kind of thing. So I think we have to, all of these International Women's Day events, etc. I hate it when you just see women there, because actually it's the men that need to be there. They need to be seeing like, I'm the change maker. Women can't do this without us. So I think we need to really be influencing men to be allies to change the game.
Okay, Vivian?
100% agree with Charlotte, because the change is not going to happen with women. It's like trying to say, I want everyone to understand X and you are the X. Nobody's going to get it. You need people to come on board, and businesses are losing out on opportunities. It's interesting how outside of work, we talk about how valuable relationships are. And most people are in some people are in heterosexual relationships. So you are in a relationship with a woman and she is valuable. What stops her from being in leadership role? It's the same woman. Why do you suddenly trust her to be on the forefront of your next generation? I mean, your protege.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you can't trust her to be at the forefront of your business? I am very confused. Educate me.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? So businesses are losing out. We need more men champions. And it's uncomfortable, because if you're used to doing things a certain way, change is challenging. However, businesses are losing out. The world is losing out. Innovation is at the brink of non-existence if you keep having the same people in the boardroom. So my ask to men is just help accelerate more women. Even when you don't understand it, give it a shot. What's the worst that can happen? You learn from it.
Yeah.
And maybe do it again.
Yeah, that's true. So there isn't a pipeline problem. It's lack of women are kind of hold back.
There's no pipeline. Where is it?
Yeah.
I mean, companies like to make the whole noise of we have 5% and then we have 20%. 5% of what? Are you actively championing women? And yes, there's some people that talk about certain type of discrimination to make sure women, that's when you're ticking boxes. Take all of those out and just look at women for what they can do. Look at women for the different angles they can bring to the table. And again, I like to take it back to reality. If you're in a heterosexual relationship, or you have a mother and you have a sister, and you can call them up for advice, what's stopping you from giving the woman in your office the same opportunity?
Yes.
The makeup is the same.
Yeah.
That's so true. Nancy?
I agree with the ladies, right? There's no excuse any company at this time and age where they're not, having women in leadership roles, right? And again, sometimes it does vary from industry to industry.
Yeah.
However, we are at a different time where women are going into all these different industries. So you have to make sure as an organization, you're mindful, and also you're checking your biases subconsciously, because sometimes we tend to have this thing where we are hiring people who look, sound, and behave like us. So you have to make sure you're checking your biases and letting women also take up these leadership roles. I have been in industries where almost all the way to the top, it's almost a 50-50 split. So sometimes like 49, 51, 51, 49, whichever way. So I know it's possible, and women leaders make amazing leaders. Like it's been proven all over, like studies have been done, research has been done. Having women in leadership roles is such a critical thing. And also having diverse, women in roles. Because sometimes you find the women in leadership look a certain way.
Apparently, you're groomed to look a certain way.
So it's not just about gender, but it's also about diversity. Yeah, but I agree.
And also, like, women are the biggest consumers, right? I think we spend the most free money in households. And therefore, like, businesses are missing out. Like, because if men are trying to create, it's like when men create products for women, like, I don't understand, like, you need a woman in that space.
It's good for business.
You don't know the consumer,
It's good for business. So if you don't have any any other thing to base your hiring, just know it's good for business. And even more, like the older the women, the better, because older women have more resources. They're the best buyers. Like when they have money, they're going to, you know, to buy. And also in households, sometimes women are the ones that take the lead in terms of what they're consuming as well. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So just moving on. Women's appearance influences how seriously they are taken in professional settings.
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm Charlotte here now. I don't know which one it is.
Indecisive on this one.
I'm doing a Charlotte. What am I?
It's all of them.
It is all of them.
I think it's
That's totally fine. Nancy, let's start with you.
So the thing is, gender aside, the way you present yourself in the workplace does matter. There was this interesting experiment a certain gentleman did. They were Indian though, and they they went to is it a stylist or like bought a new wardrobe and kind of had this persona of themselves, and you know, in terms of how they dress, how they, you know, talk to people, and it turned out it made more money for that particular person. And then of course there are other studies that have been shown that, you know, more well put together people tend to get the promotions, tend to get a more positive interactions with clients, bosses. So there are studies and research to prove that. That said, I believe in being authentically yourself, right? So no matter all these different situations, you need to present yourself in the most authentic self that means and kind of makes sense to you, while still of course being, you know, mindful of the environment that you're in. Yeah, I mean, if the dress code or if the more acceptable way of dressing is you know, more, you know, business with suits, you don't want to go there with your joggers. I mean, right? You want to be taken a little bit more seriously. But then that's not to say, you know, there are ways where you can bring your personal style to that place. But again, it's a different time, because nowadays, you know, can you imagine a few years ago you couldn't wear jeans and trainers or sneakers to the workplace? Now it's kind of becoming the norm. So again, it does vary from industry to industry, but I think no matter what, you always need to be your most authentic self, but also make sure you're not putting yourself at a disadvantage. Play the game.
Ooh, high five to that. Like, yes.
Play the game.
I think Nancy said most of the thoughts that was going on in my mind. Dress the way you want to be addressed is something I was raised with. Dress according to where you're going.
The privilege thing, they have all the background, they know all the information, they get ahead.
So we're getting the
When you're trying to
information.
figure out this new space and environment you're
Dress
in.
the way. When you read my book, you would realize that my father wanted me to be either the president or the president's wife. So imagine coming from that background.
It's pressure.
Image was always pressure. Like, how are you looking today?
Yeah.
Anyway, but interestingly, as I progressed in my career, someone once gave me a terrible advice, and she said it with a straight face with conviction. And she said, as you progress in your career, make sure you wear mostly black or navy blue. And I said, why is that? She goes, because the business partners you're going to be partnering with are mostly men. And when you wear color, you distract them. So just wear black so that they can focus on what you have to say. Boy, I did that for 2 years. Life was boring.
I bet.
I'm colorful. My name is Vivian. It means alive, lively. So to your point, you have to find the balance to what makes you you. So you being authentic is very important. Of course, the dress code of where you're going to. If everybody's smart casual, don't turn up to super casual. If everybody's very corporate, don't do the opposite and things like that. But people will respect you being put together however you dress. So it's important what you wear. People see you first before they hear you, and they've already formed their opinion. I think it's 7 seconds of when they see you, they've kind of formed their opinion. Do I like this person? Am I going to talk? Could we be friends and all of that? So yes, your appearance matters. Don't just show up. Show up.
Yeah. Charlotte?
agree massively with what both of you guys said. I think it does matter, and I think playing the game for a certain amount of time is important. I played the game, you know, I was pencil skirts, suits, heels, like it was a game, like, but it was one that I liked to play, like, you know, it's like, you know, like, let's get involved. This is good. I'm put on the power suit. I'm feeling good. But I don't think that was me, and therefore I think it is around, like, you have to be authentic, but I think sometimes you have to earn a bit of kind of career growth to be authentic. I can remember, like, I'd probably been working my job for like 10 years, and then I sort of felt like I'd made it sort of to where I wanted to be. And then I got my nose pierced, and I started wearing trainers to work, and I have tattoos, like, which I'm really happy to share with people. Like, you know, they show, and I'm more than happy with that. And I love that, because that is me being authentic, but I feel like I had to earn a bit of my position before I could do that.
Yeah,
but also, you showing up like that actually allows other women to show up like that. They're like, oh, she's getting where she wants, and she's just being her. However, I am so often underestimated. Like, so often people will look at me when I rock up somewhere with my trainers and my baggy jeans, and, you know, and they'll be like, oh, what do you do? And I'll be like, well, I'm senior HR director of Hacktivision Business, which was my old role. And they'll be like, oh, like, they're like, taking me back, and I'm like, yeah, like, you know,
even better.
And they're in their suit, but I love it. Like, I get kicked from that, you know, but I do think that's taken, I don't think I could have just walked straight into my first job and done that. I think there's something like, your authenticity grows as you gain confidence and you know, snap. So
that's true.
Oh, you take me back to my suit days. Next clearance was the place.
But you're rocking like you are something, which is great, but also like you want to be you know?
I agree.
No, I agree with that too.
I think also, maybe this is just a me thing, but I love to dress up. I love to bring out my different personalities through my dressing. So sometimes, because I was in a very client-facing role, so sometimes I would show up in red and everybody knows it's business. Like, I'm not playing around, right?
They remember you as well. They remember you, like, colours and popping.
It's so interesting, because there's this one time I went to a networking event and I wore a red blazer. I didn't do it, you know, consciously. And then I'm talking to this person like, oh, I mean, you know, I can see you've worn a red blazer, you know, it means you really want to be remembered. I was like, I hadn't even thought about it.
Because people will be, oh, the girl, you remember the girls with red blazers? Or like leopard print trousers.
Use it to your advantage. I think play around with it, see what you like, you know, in different spaces, communicate something, right? And I think, I can't remember the name of the lady. I don't know whether she was a judge or a politician, but she would have like a brush, like, with different sort of meaning that you're trying to communicate. If it's like a tiger, she's like, you know, she's ready to kind of, you know, tassel. If it's a flower, then she's more kind of, you know, neutral and friendly. So as women, I think we are at a point where we are able to kind of bring out a different personality, bring out different messages in the way we dress. And this works so effectively for female politicians. And I think it can also work really well with, you know, female CEOs or women who are CEOs. So turn it into something that works for you. I think,
bit of an advantage.
Right? But again, I think you earn it over time, and also dependent on the industry.
But I think that just one other point, on the black and blue, like the sort of, you know, what colours you should wear. I think that's because so often as women, when we're progressing in our careers, we're told to emulate men. Like, we're told to sort of, you know, if you want to be a leader, you need to be masculine, you need to bring beat, you need to be like a negotiator, powerful. But actually, like, it's not, like, we need to bring our feminine energy, like, you need the masculine and the feminine, and I think that's why we've been told that. But I think you're so right, like, we need to play with it and work out, like, what's working for us.
I agree with you, because it was further down in my career, the more senior I got, the more I thought, actually, they love me for what I bring to the table. It doesn't really matter whether I'm wearing black or blue or pink. And I still remember one of my favorite calls a couple of summers ago. I was chatting to a room full of men. It was a virtual call. It was so hot and sunny that day. I was in my patio and I was lying down. And I said to the guys, so ignore whatever sides you're seeing right now, because I'm so hot and I'm sat outside because it's hot in London. I don't have an aircon. And my video was on and they could see my head. I was lying down and I was still able to contribute and have this conversation, have a good laugh, have fun, move on to the next thing. But I couldn't have done that year one in my career.
Yeah, that is very true. Well, amazing conversation, ladies. I'm really enjoying this. So just moving on to our last prompt.
Oh, last one.
I know, the
Serious
conversation was going. I love this. All right, then. Women who negotiate higher salaries or promotions are seen as difficult.
This is a tough one.
Or this.
Yeah.
Okay, Nancy, let's start with you because it was tough for you to decide.
It's a tough one because I feel it depends on so many different things. One, do you care if people think you're difficult? I think that's the first thing. The other thing is, at what point also are you in your career? If you're further along in your career, I think people expect you to push back. When you're a little bit, junior in your career, then, people might want to push you around. But generally, yes, because for some reason, I think women should just accept whatever offer that gets on the table. Whereas for men, it's almost given that they can kind of, negotiate, push back, say no. And I think going back to playing the game and making sure you are kind of like cognizant of the system. When I started in my career, I would often start calling my male friends. I'm like, would you take this offer? And if they're like, no way, I'm like, I go back and negotiate and I don't care what the other person thinks so long as I get a better deal. Of course, now I don't need to check in with anyone, right? Because I'm able to tell, is this a good deal or not? And honestly, I don't think I would care that much whether they think I'm difficult or not, so long as I'm able to get to my goals. So yes, women are seen as difficult negotiating, but then it also, do you care? What point of your career are you in to be even caring? Because if you're a CEO and you're running your own business, you can't care that much about what other people think, You want the contract and you want the contract with the numbers that you want it with. So,
Yeah. Okay, Vivian?
It's a perception that you're seen as difficult. That's all it is. But you'll be respected for it. And guess what you don't realize you've done? You've put a stand on what your value is. It's a perception. But you've set your boundaries and people will respect you for it.
You've worked in HR for quite a long time. Throughout the years, have you seen it get better for women where they push back?
I don't have stats off the top of my head because for the most part, the recruiters will do all of those conversations and the hiring manager will be doing the back and forth. But from the experiences and the conversations I've had within my circle, it's getting better because women are now sharing. You're at this level. What do you think the range is? There is Glassdoor. There's all these forums where you can have conversations now. And the further you progress in your career, you are doing yourself a disservice. I think I mentioned this in the talk that I did not too long ago about career. You would know this, Charlotte. In every salary, there is a range. Someone is at the bottom, one person is at the top, and people in the middle, and there's people in between. You're never going to know. And when it comes to salaries, there's a different range, external benchmark when you're coming externally into a new job versus when you're inside. So think about the range. So you're better off adding 10, 20% on top of what you would normally agree. So that when you negotiate, you drop 5% on top of what you were already okay with. Because chances are you're not at the top of the range. Nobody's ever going to offer you because we always need buffers to go back and forth with. I would not want anyone getting into a new job and the first 6 to 9 months you're worrying about the pay. You're not going to do a good job. So that's what I mean by there is the perception, but please don't care about it, regardless of where you are in your career.
Yeah.
Because if the burden on your shoulder is I can't pay my bill, you're not going to do a good job. So what was the point of that process? You're better off biting your tongue, sitting on your hands, whatever makes you bite lemon, whatever it is, but work out your numbers, add 15 to 20% on top, because you might drop on 7% on top of your numbers so that you can do your job peacefully and not worry about when am I going to get the next pay rise. Imagine if you're a new hiring manager, we get you into the job, you need 3 months to get the ground running, hit the ground running, get used to people, build a relationship and start to deliver. And 6 months down the line, you're having conversations about when am I going to get a raise.
I would.
Yeah, you don't necessarily give the relationship the opportunity it needs to thrive. Because money is always a
But
sensitive
I
topic.
agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
And also, like, you want to retain people, and retention is hard. You know, like
Exactly.
if you don't then do that, somebody goes, "Well, I'm not valued. I'll leave. Like, I can get more somewhere else." So, yeah.
So money
I
is
agree with you,
important.
but if after those 3 months, 6 months, you discover, I got a
you
bad
gotta go
deal,
for it.
please go back to the drawing board or leave. But make sure you're going there with, full information, such that if you tell them I'll leave, you can actually leave.
Yeah, please don't say you want to leave when you're not ready. That is yeah, I agree. But someone is always going to earn more than you do. So my perspective on salary is your number is individual. I may be willing to take a certain amount because of my personal circumstance. That could include where I'm at in my career, what I want to learn from the job, where I'm going in the next 2 years, etc.
Yeah.
You may not want to take that because you're like, I've done this and this and this and I'm carrying my family. And what that means is I need to be able to foot this bill. What's okay for me? I should look myself in the mirror and say, actually, I can do with this number because it's fulfilling all these other things. And you should take your number because it's fulfilling. That's where the range comes in.
Yeah.
So can we go into salary negotiation being individual, being comfortable with what I can take? Because the moment you get in that cafeteria conversation, someone is earning more than you.
Definitely. Charlotte, would you like to add anything on top of that?
Yeah, I think I don't think women. I think one of the problems is I don't think women do it enough. It's all right for us to sit here and say I would do it, but I think women, they often will only take the leap forward or only ask the question when they're fully confident. Men will say, "Oh, I can do this. I can blag my way through this. I deserve this." Whereas I think we need to be like 90% ready, 95% ready to go and ask or to go and, say, can I be promoted to get more pay?
Yeah.
And therefore I think one of the biggest challenges is ourselves getting in our own way. And I think, the pay gap is real. It's still there. So we definitely are not asking enough or businesses are not paying fairly enough.
Yeah.
So I think that's important. But I don't think we do ask enough, but I think we are often seen as problematic when we do ask. And I think businesses maybe need to think about their policies more around how they pay, because I know in organisations that I've worked at, sometimes it's he who shouts the loudest often gets that. And if women are not forthcoming in asking, then they're not the ones that are given. So I think businesses need to have really clear pay policies in terms of what they reward, what they don't reward.
Yeah.
It can't just be somebody asked and sort of demonstrate a couple of things and we pay them more. So I think fairness and equality in pay is a really important matter.
And transparency.
And
as well.
transparency,
I think
definitely.
transparency would help a lot because then even the women who are not confident can see that they're doing themselves a disservice and so have enough data to go, actually, I deserve this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh my God, neighbors, we have ran out of time, but we were having an amazing conversation with these beautiful ladies here. What are your socials? How can we reach you?
Well, I can be reached on LinkedIn, Instagram, Nancy Masila. That's where you'll find me. That's my handle.
And I am on LinkedIn and on Instagram. On LinkedIn is Vivian Eni, so Vivian with an A, and my last name is spelled E-N-I. And then on Instagram is vivian.eni.official.
Charlotte?
Great. LinkedIn is probably the best platform for me. So it's Charlotte Bidgood, Bidgood. It's always spelled wrongly. And my website is www.inclusivepeopleltd.com. So if you want to know more about my business and what we do, that's where you can find me.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
Neighbors,
you.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, bye.
Bye.